Imagination is closely tied up with our ability to do things in working memory. Working memory is different from long-term memory. If I say, recall your mother's maiden name, poof, her maiden name pops into your head. Before I said that, her maiden name was stored in long-term memory. But after I said, think of her maiden name, her name was also maintained in your working memory. The key part of the term working memory is not so much the memory part, even though information is maintained there temporarily. The key part is the term working. While representations are temporarily stored in working memory, you can work on them. You can manipulate them, alter them, rotate them, transform them. You can play things out in your own internal virtual reality. Note that we are conscious of many of the goings-on in our internal virtual reality. So consciousness seems to have a dual role, one to give us a world out there with our bodies in it and our emotions, desires, and other feelings about what's going on in the world and in our bodies, so that we can plan appropriately and act smartly in that experienced world in order to find food, mates, shelter, and so on. The other half of consciousness is the internal virtual reality of our imagination. This allows us to act on things and imagine scenarios before we commit to doing anything in the world. The philosopher Karl Popper once said that this kind of consciousness evolved so that our hypotheses would die instead of us. I think that's correct. Imagination allowed us to play things out to see how things might turn out and how they might feel before we commit to carrying out any real actions. And if things turn out badly in our internal virtual reality, say we imagine marrying Bob and then realize he'd probably cheat on us in the coming years, then we don't have to commit to doing that action. We can tell Bob, I've thought about your proposal deeply and I'm very sorry, but I can't marry you. Most decisions in life don't matter that much. If you drink coffee or tea this afternoon, it won't matter for your life long term. In a month, you'll have forgotten what you drank today. But some decisions are consequential. For example, if you marry, whom you marry. If you have children, how many? What country you choose to live in. What career you choose to pursue. Whereas tea versus coffee over lunch today is pretty inconsequential, so we might as well just randomly pick one or the other. Whom we choose to marry is very consequential. In these kinds of meta-decisions that affect every other decision going forward, we would not be wise to just pick somebody randomly. We would be wise to deliberate, and deliberation requires playing things out in the internal virtual reality of our imagination. Say Bob is better looking than Tom. Maybe he's richer. Maybe he's even famous. But Tom is kinder and funnier. So we play things out in our private virtual reality. We imagine life with Bob after the romance has died down. We imagine life with Tom. We imagine how they would be with our imagined children. We imagine growing old together. And then we see Bob cheating on us down the line and we think, that jerk! And we decide not to marry him. This is how consequential deliberative decisions are made. They're made by experiencing the consequences of playing events out and possibilities out in our imagination. Of course, we don't only deliberate over consequential decisions, we daydream a lot. In fact, psychologists have shown that we spend about half of our waking hours in daydream mode and half of our waking hours attending to what we're actually doing and the world around us. Even though it's not terribly consequential for our long-term life happiness or success, we deliberate over what to make for dinner. These kinds of inconsequential deliberations and imaginings precede many, if not most, of our volitional actions. For example, let's say we want to have a dinner party. We think we'll invite 3 men and 3 women just to keep it interesting. We populate our dinner table with these people and imagine what it would be like. Then we experience in our internal virtual reality that Bob and Sheila are not getting along. We remember that Bob left Sheila and hurt her. What a jerk Bob is. We remove him from our virtual reality. We think, who can we set Sheila up with? Rajiv is so nice, and he's single. How can such a nice guy still be single? We add Rajiv to our imagined dinner party. Now everybody at our virtual dinner party seems to be getting along. Since it feels right, we commit to these 6 people. Okay, now what should I cook? Uh-oh, Rajiv is vegetarian. Okay, how about falafel? No, but I don't know how to make that. How about spinach lasagna? Well, I can make that. Okay, let's commit to making spinach lasagna. Okay, what do I have on hand? Lasagna noodles, yes. Uh-oh, but spinach no. Okay, then I have to go to the supermarket to buy spinach. We then pop out of our virtual reality mode and go look for our car keys so we can drive to the supermarket in order to buy spinach. So, as you can see, imagination is not only used to deliberate and make decisions regarding life's most consequential choices, it's also centrally used for everyday decision-making, like what to make for dinner tonight. But where does imagination itself come from? Let's consider a random example. Imagine an egg with wings flying around the Statue of Liberty who's holding an ice cream cone instead of a torch. This is actually an amazing capacity that you have. You can imagine virtually anything at all. In this example, it requires downloading from your long-term memory all kinds of representations, including an egg, wings, the Statue of Liberty, and an ice cream cone. It also requires multiple operations, which also have to be brought into your working memory. You have to first download correct representations, then maintain them in your working memory, then actually do work in your working memory, like attaching wings to the egg, replacing the torch with an ice cream cone on the Statue of Liberty, and then virtually causing the egg to fly around the statue. We want to reach a point where we understand how such operations over operands in working memory take place in the brain. But before we get there, we'll first examine how we came to have such a powerful imagination, the greatest tool and weapon in the world. I say tool because it allowed the Wright brothers to first envision an airplane and then go build one, which transformed the world. It allowed us to send people to the moon. But our imaginations are also the greatest weapons in the world because we can imagine terrible and sick things as well, and then go and make those imaginings real. Let's not forget that the Holocaust was an act of Hitler's demented imagination long before any concentration camps were ever built.